What are you studying so hard there, Kathryn? Some of Alice's Jabberwocky?
No, worse than that. Algebra. You know, I think they were both invented by the same person. I think they
Quiet! Rehearsal. We're ready for you now, Kathryn.
Oh, do excuse me, please.
Imagine this. You're a kid sitting in your elementary school classroom. The teacher starts speaking, and something about her voice stops you. It's familiar, strangely familiar. Then it hits you. She sounds exactly like Alice from Alice in Wonderland. Because she is. The voice that once said, "Curiouser and wandered through Wonderland," is now calling out names on a class attendance sheet. This is the story of Kathryn Beaumont, the original voice of Disney's Alice and Wendy from Peter Pan. She was once at the heart of Walt Disney's Golden Age of animation. But after just 2 major roles, she walked away from Hollywood. So, whatever happened to her? Let's find out. Kathryn Beaumont was born in London, England in 1938. Her early childhood was shaped by the arts. Her father was a professional singer, and her mother had experience in the theater. Encouraged by her parents, Kathryn started performing at a young age, and by the time she was 6, she had already appeared in her first film. Her big break came in 1944 when she was cast in the British film It Happened, One Sunday. The film wasn't a massive international hit, but it made just enough waves to get the attention of MGM, the Hollywood studio that was expanding its roster of international talent. They saw potential in young Kathryn and signed her to a contract. Soon after, her family made the transatlantic move to Los Angeles so she could pursue a career in Hollywood. It was during this time that Walt Disney was deep into the development of Alice in Wonderland, a passion project he had been trying to get off the ground for over a decade. Disney was on the lookout for a young actress who could capture the innocence, curiosity, and slightly stubborn charm of Lewis Carroll's Alice. He wanted someone British, someone who felt authentic, not overly theatrical. And when he saw a screen test of Kathryn Beaumont, he reportedly knew immediately this was his Alice. She had the right voice, clear, expressive, intelligent, but also something else, a grounded realism. Kathryn wasn't a stagey child actor. She spoke like a real girl. But her role went far beyond voice acting. Disney's animators often used live-action reference footage to help guide their hand-drawn characters. So Kathryn acted out nearly every scene from Alice in Wonderland on a soundstage, wearing a blue dress and interacting with props while cameras filmed her movements. Animators then studied her gestures and body language to bring Alice to life on screen. She was just 10 years old when she began working on the film, but already she was shaping one of the most iconic characters in animation history. Her performance was so well received that Disney cast her again 2 years later, this time as another curious and kind-hearted girl, Wendy Darling in Peter Pan, 1953. In just 2 roles, Kathryn Beaumont became the voice of a generation of childhood dreams, first down the rabbit hole and then off to Neverland. By the time Kathryn Beaumont stepped into the role of Alice, Walt Disney had already been dreaming about adapting Alice in Wonderland for over a decade. He had first attempted a version in the 1930s but shelved it, unsure how to capture the surreal, often nonsensical tone of Lewis Carroll's books. But by the late 1940s, with new technology, a bigger studio, and a fresh post-war audience, Disney was ready to try again. And if you are into classic Hollywood icons, amazing stories, and newly discovered insights, then hit that subscribe button. We are on our way to 10,000 subscribers, and your support will mean a lot to our channel. Kathryn became the heart of the project. Her work on Alice in Wonderland was groundbreaking, not just because of her voice, but because of how much of her actual physical performance ended up shaping the animation. She spent months acting out scenes in costume on a soundstage, sometimes hanging from wires to simulate falling, or pretending to shrink and grow with oversized props. The animators used this live-action footage as a reference to draw Alice's movements frame by frame. You can even see Kathryn's facial expressions mirrored in the character. And while most child actors of the time were coached to sound overly sweet or dramatic, Kathryn's delivery was subtle, intelligent, and emotionally grounded. She captured Alice's curiosity, her irritation, her wonder, and even her fear, with remarkable naturalism. Working with Walt Disney himself, Kathryn became one of the studio's favorite young performers. So much so that when Peter Pan entered production shortly after, Disney cast her again, this time as Wendy Darling. Just like with Alice, she voiced the character and acted out her scenes for the animators. In many ways, Kathryn was a pioneer of what we now think of as performance capture, a full-body performance used to guide animation. By the early 1950s, Kathryn Beaumont had achieved what most child actors could only dream of. She starred in 2 major Disney animated features, both of which would become timeless classics. But then, she disappeared from Hollywood almost entirely. After voicing 2 of Disney's most iconic heroines, Alice and Wendy, you might expect Kathryn Beaumont to have continued in Hollywood, taking on more films, television roles, or even a career in voice acting. But that's not what happened. Instead, she stepped away from the spotlight. By the mid-1950s, Kathryn was still just a teenager, and unlike many child stars, she didn't chase fame. Her parents emphasized education and stability, and Kathryn herself had other interests beyond acting. She decided to finish school and eventually enrolled at the University of Southern California, where she studied education. While Disney had given her a platform few others had at that age, Kathryn made a conscious decision to leave the industry behind. There was no scandal, no dramatic fallout, just a quiet, personal choice to live a more ordinary life. And that's exactly what she did. After graduating, she became a school teacher in Los Angeles, dedicating herself to education for over 3 decades. Generations of children passed through her classroom with no idea that their kind, well-spoken teacher had once sailed through Neverland and wandered Wonderland. It's almost poetic. After spending her early years in animated fantasy worlds, she chose to live a grounded, meaningful life in the real one. For many years, Kathryn Beaumont lived a quiet, ordinary life, teaching school and keeping her Hollywood past, mostly to herself. But the world hadn't forgotten. In the 1990s and early 2000s, as Disney began celebrating its classic animated films through special editions, documentaries, and theme park expansions, interest in the voices behind those characters returned. And when Disney came calling, Kathryn answered. She was officially honored as a Disney legend in 1998, cementing her place in the company's legacy. It was a rare honor for someone who had only voiced 2 characters. But those 2 roles, Alice and Wendy, had become part of Disney's cultural foundation. Beyond that, Disney invited her back to voice Alice and Wendy for various theme park attractions and projects, including updates to the Alice in Wonderland ride at Disneyland and Wendy's voice in Peter Pan's flight. Even decades later, she was the only one who could bring those characters to life with such authenticity. In 2002, she also reprised the role of an older Wendy in Return to Neverland, a rare return to animation after nearly 50 years. Her voice had aged gracefully, still full of warmth and elegance. She also appeared in Disney retrospectives and anniversary specials, offering behind-the-scenes insight into what it was like to work with Walt Disney himself and the pioneering animators of the era. Today, Kathryn Beaumont's work continues to shape how Disney princesses and heroines are portrayed: intelligent, curious, strong, and sincere. Unlike many performances of that era, hers feel timeless. She wasn't just reading lines, she was living in those characters. Kathryn Beaumont's story isn't one of scandal or spectacle. It's something rarer, a story of grace. She gave voice and soul to 2 of Disney's most iconic characters, and then, at the height of her potential, chose a different path. She didn't chase the spotlight. She didn't cling to fame. Instead, she gave decades of her life to education, guiding real children through their own journeys, not in fantasy, but in everyday life. And yet her voice remains woven into the fabric of childhood for millions. Whether it's Alice tumbling down the rabbit hole or Wendy soaring across the London sky, Kathryn's performances continue to inspire wonder, curiosity, and courage. She reminded us that you don't have to stay in the spotlight to leave a legacy. Sometimes a single voice is enough.